Hello subscribers and other YouTubers. I want to talk today about how you take your pulse, how you ride in a group, within a group. So, I did a video earlier where I talked about how to give warnings in a group. And I want to talk about how you work within a group. The first thing you want to do is to find out, if you can, especially if you're meeting the group at a particular place where you're starting out with, try to figure out what the goal of the group you're riding with is. There are some groups that have social rides. There's some groups that have rides where it's a fast ride, okay? So it's kind of good to know so that either you go there with fresh legs or you go in there to just kind of recover. Okay, but let's start with a social ride. If there's a social ride where they've decided they're going to be taking it easy and whatever, if that's not your goal, then there's no point in hooking up with this group. Or if you do hook up with the group and you sit at the front, make sure you keep the speed where they've kind of discussed, because a lot of them will tell you we want to average, say, 17 or whatever, and most of the time they want to stay around 18 to 20. So when you get to the front, and that's the goal of the group, stay at the front longer doing 18 to 20, as opposed to picking it up to 25 or 23, because then you won't be very popular with that group, because that was not the goal of the group. Especially if you didn't start with them and let's say they came along and you just got up to the back and worked your way through, and then you get to the front, you start changing things. A lot of very disciplined groups will just let you ride off the front alone. They won't follow you around. So if you want to ride with people, find out what the goal is for that ride and try to stay within that. Second thing is, if you want to go hard, and let's say you hook up with a group that's going fast, then you still have to figure out whether this group is allowing people to do race style attacks. If you're a budding road racer, there are a lot of groups that don't encourage that on every ride, because sometimes they want to go fast, but it's just fast and steady or whatever. Once you find out, and really you don't even have to ask, just watch what the other riders are doing if the group is unfamiliar to you. But what I want to focus on is, say the group's going down the road and somebody's at the front, regardless of how long they're pulling, and let's say they're pulling at, say, depending on the conditions, 22, 23 miles an hour, and you're in the back. Obviously, you're working less than the person in the front. That's the whole point of the group. So you're behind that guy, he's pulling, and then he pulls off. Resist the urge to surge, okay? Because the group, working together with the group, you will cover more ground than by yourself while expending less energy. So, unless there's a ride where you're launching an attack, don't surge when someone has pulled and they pull off, because he's just pulled off after doing a turn at the front. He needs to get back in and recover. So if you surge and then you change the speed, he's going to have to work hard to get back in. What's going to happen? If that guy has any kind of experience, first of all, he'll be annoyed. Second of all, he's not coming back to the front quickly. They're going to let you sit up there, Mr. Surger, and fry a little bit. So unless you're riding with your buddies where you guys are messing around, but if you're just in the group, for the most part, pull through, keep the effort the same, keep the speed steady, so you guys can cover more ground for the time that you're out there, okay? It doesn't matter how fast. The group I hook up with on Sundays, these elite guys, they're fast. But what I noticed was more than 80% of the ride, rolling terrain, whatever, they're in the mid-20s, 23, 25, whatever. It was steady. There weren't attacks. Then at certain points in the ride, they would sprint for a sign. I haven't ridden with them that much, so I don't know the norms of their group. But what I observed was they would sprint for the sign, then they sit up after the sprint, and the rest of the people who did not participate in the sprint catch back up to them. Then they would get back on the front once we caught back up and continue the same pace again. So that's something that they do. But what I notice is that other than the sprint areas, most of the ride, they were rolling, they were alternating. Somebody would pull for say a minute or two, slide to the left, then the third guy would like let a gap open, and that person gets to go right back in. So you had 3 or 4 guys driving the pace most of the ride. They just stayed at the front. So because they were so frequently at the front, they got their workout. So the strongest guys stayed at the front. Everybody else stayed in the draft. And then they used the road. If the wind was coming from this side, they would be over there. So we could set up an echelon. Unlike the other group I ride with on Saturday who just ride by the white line regardless of where the wind is coming from. So resist the urge to break the norm in a group ride unless there's a designated sprint point that they normally go for, then yeah, you participate in that. But if all you want to do is sit on the back and then wait to sprint and not help the group, that's actually kind of annoying too. You know, and you won't be very popular. They won't say anything to you, but what may end up happening, they'll wait till they'll get an opportunity where they'll drop the hammer on a hill or something and make you work. Because if you're going to sit in a 50-mile group ride for 45 miles and then say you mark Cavendish at the end, makes no sense. Because in a race, nobody's going to pull you to the finish line unless they're your teammate. So what's the point? So you're riding with the group to help the group along. If you feel good and you can handle the pace, it is only fair that you go and you take your share of the pull. Forget the sprints. Who cares about that? Because in fact, you will be a stronger rider if you ride for 50 miles, you take your pulls, and then you participate in the sprint. Then that's the way it's supposed to be done. I mean, who are you to come on a group ride, sit there for 50 miles, and then say you're winning a sprint? Nobody wins a group ride. It's not a race. People are here to get a workout. You won't get any stronger sitting in because in a race, you're not going to get anybody pulling you for 50 miles. So if you're not used to getting your nose in the wind, you're shortchanging yourself. So get out there, get with the group that's at your level, and do the work. Learn how to come through. Learn how to be on a wheel, roll out of the pool, and get back in. All of those skills need to be worked on. Because if you don't do it in training, you're not going to be able to do it when you compete or if you go to a sportif. Just keep that in mind and resist the urge to show off. When you get to the front and you're feeling great, do the speed the group was doing, sit your butt there longer. If everybody's pulling for 2 minutes and you feel great, pull for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But keep the speed the same. They will appreciate that better than you surging and breaking up the group, but you can't sustain it long enough. So now you got everybody speed going up and down for no reason. You know, so I just wanted to explain that as far as when you're taking pulls. Be smooth, be considerate, and be alert. No headphones. That's not the time. You're riding with other cyclists, you need to be alert. You need to be sharp. If the pace is too hard for you and you're getting out of control, let the group go. You're riding with the wrong group at this time because you should be under control. You shouldn't be riding cross-eyed to where your wits are not about you. You need your wits to avoid crashes and other things. So if you're riding beyond your level, you'd be better off letting them go and riding with people who are at your level or slightly above. Going too far above your level doesn't necessarily help you improve. You may develop bad habits. So you have to gauge where you are and gradually move up. Because if you're in the back of the group and your pedaling is falling apart and you're pedaling squares because you're beyond your red line, that's not the group for you. You need to be pedaling smoothly, be able to breathe, be able to pay attention to what's happening, to see the warnings. That means you're with the right group. So stay within yourself when you ride. Don't get out of control. So that's what I wanted to cover here today is basically, you know, how you ride with a group. Keep the group moving. It is a train. It's not a race. Don't go out there trying to overdo. Don't go to the front and overcook yourself because somebody might decide to go fast at that time. Then what are you gonna do? You know, so when you get to the front, pull, save a little something for future pulls. Take a pull that's reasonable. If you can't take a pull, as soon as you get to the front, pull off, go back in the back. Nobody will have a problem with that. But you want to pull through or leave a gap for those riders coming back and let them slip right in front of you. Either way will work. But don't get to the front and then stop because it's fast. No, you pull through if you happen to get to the front and follow the next guy. You don't even have to stay there for 5 seconds. As soon as he pulls off, you pull off in front of him because he will drift back. And when you pull off, you want to slow your speed a little bit by soft pedaling so the group can come by. And always pull off into the wind. If the wind is coming from this side, you pull off that way. If the wind is coming from that side, you pull off that way. So you can continue to give shelter to the other people coming through. That's the key. So I just wanted to cover that little snippet here. Leave your comments and questions below. If there's anything you want to hear that I may have missed, I'll do another video or answer you directly. See you later out. Be safe out there on the roads.